Hello, welcome back to another segment in a spiritual ascension, my own 5-year personal journey. Um, if this is your first time coming into the videos of my story, I recommend that you go back to the beginning to the intro video and then go from there because I'm kind of telling the story and I'm breaking it up so in pieces so that it's easier to follow and also that I don't run on because it's going to be extensive. Not only am I trying to relay my story, but help you to understand how your own ascension um, will uplift you spiritually, change you significantly. Is actually this morning kind of because I journal and I always recommend all of my clients, my students, to do a massive amount of journaling because you're kind of looking back to see the changes that have taken place over that time frame. And I was because I'm kind of on the other side now, and I try not to as much to think of my previous life, because I always talk about you're having two lives within one lifetime. I try as because it was so difficult that previous life, but sometimes I have to make myself go back there in order to continue my healing. Okay. Um, so when I left off yesterday, I was talking about us just coming into 2020, and everyone knows what happened in 2020 internationally. I was kind of stuck in my apartment for that time and had really no contact with anyone else. So I'm going to talk about this individual person who had been a really big part of my life for many, many, many years. But at this point, I'm not going to identify that person. You'll understand kind of why later on, but I'm just going to say that this person is a part of my family. And I'm going to kind of probably maybe make up a name. Um, I was thinking Stacy. I don't know. Probably, like I say, I'm writing a book about this. I'm going to have to change names, but I'm going to say Stacy for now. So if I refer to this person as Stacy or this significant family person, you'll know who I'm talking about. So this person and I, this family member, and I were in a lot of contact. Um, I wish I could give you more of the history of me and this person because it's going to be hard. Um, and I think eventually you may figure out who this is to me, but I've decided not to have any contact with this person because of what they ended up doing to me. And even though you can say you can forgive and move on, there's no forgetting. Okay. So now that that's out of the way. Um, this family member and I had been in touch, and she had children and had just started, I think, working from home because, all the businesses and stuff were kind of shutting down and people started working from home. So I said to her, I'm here by myself. I'm not doing anything, really, I can't really do my own business at this point of what I wanted to do. Um, so what I'll do is I'm going to just pack up my apartment, put everything in storage, and I'll come stay with you. and help you with the kids, um, so that, during the day while you're working, I can, supervise and manage the kids for you. So I did that, and that was April of 2020. And I say that was kind of the starting point. Um, April 30th always seems to be when there's some kind of big change in my life. So the prepping of the move, packing everything up, um, and then, telling my landlord I was going to leave as of April 30th, kind of was that starting point of my 5-year journey. I didn't know that at the time. I had said, okay, I'm going to put my stuff in storage. No one knew when this was going to end. And I said, I'll eventually come back. I'm going to have to get a whole new apartment and everything. But was the area that was now my community, who I knew so many people, who I had grown to really love being there. And I wanted to come back. Um, I was born and raised in New Jersey, and that's where this family member was also. Um, my mother was also there, so I figured it would be a good time also to kind of be able to see her as she was getting older in age. Um, so packed everything up, and I ended up leaving and going to stay with this family member, which I'll call Stacy. So the first couple of weeks were nice. She would work and I would help with her kids and um, feed them and put them down for their naps and so forth. Also, during this time, the opportunity came for me to do my, what do you call it? My certification for yoga, for trauma. And that's kind of what you call like chair yoga, but also you're learning to deal with people who have trauma. And since my focus was on healing and helping people, um, you know, by doing readings and by Reiki, I thought this would be a tremendous asset to my what I already did. And when I went back to New York, I figured, okay, not only do I have my, you know, um, certification as a yoga instructor, but also I have this additional yoga for trauma certification. And that was something done online. Um, and the weeks had started to go by, and kind of saying, okay, telling her probably I'm hoping by September, October, or sometime in the fall, I'm going to go back to New Jersey. I'm sorry, New York, you know. But then also the thing was, my funds were getting smaller and smaller, and I didn't quite know how I was going to, plus still didn't know when this was going to end. And so there was all these things up in the air of, can I go back? Would I find an apartment in the same area for a reasonable price of what I had, of money that I had left, and then be able to continue my life up until I could reestablish the business. And things just seemed to become more dire and dire as far as that was concerned. One day, I had taken the oldest one for a walk, and I think you could take some back pathways through um, a wooded area to get like to the nearest Walmart. which wasn't far away. And on our way back, so, talking to her and, just, she was, I think maybe 11 at that time, just talking to her, about everyday life and things. And as we're walking along the path, this deer, is approaching with one of her babies. And I kind of like, stayed still, and I told the young girl to also stay still. And the doe kind of stopped and stared at me. And like, I don't know what to do because we were kind of facing each other. The doe wanted to go this way and I wanted to go that way on the path. And so I said to the younger, I said, just be very still, don't move, don't make any quick actions or anything. And eventually the doe came, and there was this moment where she stood still, and we made this eye contact. And that was like such a moment. I can't even describe that moment of this. I don't even know what to say. Um, like this familiarity, I can't say that, with this creature. And there was almost like an understanding there. And eventually she did walk past us very cautiously. It was funny that the baby deer, once she saw us, she was like, okay, mom, like what's going on here? And then as the mom slowly passed us, the baby deer just like took off and like ran, like she knew that she was afraid and didn't trust us. But anyway, like the doe never, you know, seemed to feel a sense of fear. Um, and there was this trust there. And it was kind of from that moment that connection with deers now. Whenever I see a deer, I know that that means something in some way. And later on, I figured out that whenever I would see deer, it kind of meant that the universe was telling me that there was going to be some kind of movement that would happen. So I think not so long after that, Stacy ended up getting a different apartment, which was larger, and we ended up moving. So that was, to me, that was like the movement. And it also brought me closer to, because we were kind of out, which near a highway, and it was hard for me to get around. But now this brought me more towards like a more area where there's more people. There was a mall nearby, and just trying to watch my time, and access to more. So I figured, okay, this is my opportunity, possibly that now to maybe I just have to get a job, start working, and eventually, I can, get an apartment back in New York. So I ended up getting a job at Bloomingdale's in New Jersey. And but the thing was now that I was kind of working and living with this family member, I kind of felt obligated more so since I wasn't taking care of the kids had gone back to daycare and to school. So there's no really need for me to take care of anyone at that point. So I said, getting a job, like I want to be able to contribute to the household. And now kind of my money was going somewhere else. It wasn't going to me being able to save it up and add it so that I could go back to New York. Um, and now it was fall. I thought by September, October, the fall time, I would be able to, get back to where I was in New York. And it just seemed like the more and more as time went by, my desire to go back was diminishing and wasn't too sure, what was going to happen. And all I knew at this point was kind of like, I'm kind of stuck here until I could figure out a way to get back. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I don't know, these last couple of videos have been like really kind of because I haven't really expressed this so much to anyone. You guys are kind of the first time. So it's kind of like me hearing myself tell this story out loud to someone else is kind of triggering, and I'm sure the same thing for you, whatever you've gone through um, before you started your journey, when you look back, they probably weren't really great situations. And it can trigger you when you kind of think about it or talk about it. So just kind of understand that, okay? If you would like to spend any time with me talking about your own journey, or if you would like a reading, there's a link below to book time with me. Also, I've done several courses on the Ascension journey. That link is also below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.